Thanks very much to Congresswoman Davis for that great introduction, and I know that you have a very, very busy schedule, so I really appreciate you taking the time to be here this morning. And as you heard, we're a company that's headquartered in San Diego, so we've had a lot of opportunity to work together with Congresswoman Davis's office and really experience together the growth that the community's seen. And today, San Diego really is a center for telecommunications companies, and it goes all the way from startups to large companies that have come to town to work alongside our engineers for their products. And really, the success story does come from both an active university research community. My father and some of the other founders were university professors. And it comes from the support of the government for the research community. And really, without that support and without government consulting work, because you know, the companies that were founded there, the precursor company called Linkabit, really were based off of government research grants. And from Linkabit came not only the founders of Qualcomm, but the founders of a lot of other companies in the mobile broadband industry. And Qualcomm itself, actually, when we first started, it wasn't that we had an idea of what the products were. It was actually, and I remember this very clearly, it was a bunch of good people. They knew that they would come up with good ideas, but they started out saying, okay, well, the first things we'll do are take a few of these government research grants and work on those projects while they figured out what the first products were going to be. And so really that's the story of the beginning of the company, and not just Qualcomm, but also the company that preceded it, Linkabit. So Qualcomm really today is very much about innovation, and really, if you think about the inventions, not just of the founders, but of all the people in the company, they really have taken the mobile phone that we used to think about just making phone calls, you know, talking on, and turned it into really an extraordinarily powerful mobile computer. And today, what that means is the company has become the largest supplier of chips that go into cell phones. And we also license our technologies broadly, and I think we're probably the largest licensing company of technology, certainly in the phone industry, and really that has spread globally. So we license companies around the world to build mobile phones and the other pieces of the communications infrastructure, and we really feel like we set up a business model that is very pro-competitive, it's very pro-innovation, it's on a global scale, and the beneficiaries of that business model really are the over 1 billion people around the world today who use our technology. And I want to say thanks very much to ITIF, because you know, we're here today talking about really a shared mission and how we find ways to advance innovation and technology-focused policies. And really, we fundamentally believe this is where value is created, and this is what's very critical to driving economic growth opportunities in the United States. And so if we focus in on our industry, just that industry, I mean, you know, this mobile broadband technology really is a global phenomenon, and it really does have a lot of implications, and you've heard some of them, and I'm going to talk about more, but has very, very broad implications for U.S. competitiveness. And really, if you think about what's happened in this transformation in the mobile industry, you know, wireless now is an enabling technology, and it's a technology now that can be used to really improve people's lives in many ways beyond just connectivity. So, you know, today there's a lot of things that you expect out of your phone. I mean, obviously, we expect to be connected anytime, anywhere. And if you think about having your phone with you, You feel like you're in contact with your friends and your family and your colleagues, not because you're talking to them all the time, but because you have the ability to reach out to them whenever you want. And now, as I said, the phone has gone beyond just voice. It's now a computing device. And so you have this little piece of plastic and metal in your hand, and you somehow have access to the knowledge of the human race. I mean, it's just fundamentally amazing. You touch this piece of plastic and information comes to you. And it's not just about information, it's about entertainment. It's all sorts of things. We use these devices now to navigate, to find our way around, to find out what's around us. We take pictures and videos. You know, the stories that we got out of Middle East and North Africa. I was at Davos, and people were talking about how they were taking pictures of snipers on rooftops with their cell phones and posting them to Facebook, and the other people could see them. And it literally saved lives. So that kind of impact, really amazing. And then all these new categories of devices that are coming out that people expect now to be connected. So, you know, obviously there's a lot of hype around tablet computers and e-readers and other sorts of devices like that we all expect now to be connected all the time. So that evolution really has created this tremendous demand for wireless data, for mobile broadband. And so more than 27 million 3G subscriptions are added every month. I mean, it's kind of growth that we have not seen in kind of any industry. 900,000 subscribers are added to networks every day. That's what that means. That's just a phenomenal number. So what that means for the U.S. industry is that there's a tremendous opportunity in front of us. And if you think about the scale of the wireless industry, 5 billion subscriptions for wireless in the world. That's, it's a huge platform. And 1.2 billion of those people have mobile broadband right now. And so this convergence between mobile and the internet, it really, it's an incredible phenomenon out there. And we think that by 2014, 75% of all broadband connections are going to be through mobile devices. So we had this vision a long time ago that the wireless internet would have a more profound impact on the world than the wired internet. And I think that's true. That most people in the world, their first and maybe their only internet experience is going to come through their mobile device. And it is absolutely the case in emerging markets that mobile really is, it's often the only way that those people have access to the internet and everything it enables. And we're also using mobile technologies to connect fixed computing too. I was in Nepal, and we were opening up a mobile computing classroom. Actually, we did a series of them, but we were there for ribbon cutting. And the lab had gotten set up, I don't know, maybe 3 days before the ribbon cutting, so the kids had actually gotten in there. And these were kids who hadn't had access to the internet. And we connected these computers in this classroom up over wireless technology, so they had access to the internet. And in the 3 days before the ribbon cutting, they were already on the internet, Googling things, Skyping their friends. I mean, it was an unbelievable phenomenon that these kids just took to it. They could absorb the knowledge, and they could get connected to the global community in such a short period of time, and something that absolutely was not possible before we had this wireless connectivity that just allowed them to make those kinds of connections. And those kinds of stories and the broader implications are incredibly motivating for developing markets. And if we look at countries like China and India, these countries understand well that adopting mobile broadband will improve GDP and will create jobs. And so if you look at just over a period of time, 2009 to 2014, we're expecting that China is going to see almost 680% growth in their 3G connections, and India about 170%. Now India, the number sounds lower. The absolute numbers are actually somewhat similar. India started earlier on 3G, so they had more of a base already in 2009. Took China a little bit longer to get 3G, but in any case, these countries understand that 3G really is expanding opportunities for their business sector. It does contribute to increased competitiveness for them, and it does promote new and innovative business opportunities and service opportunities. And obviously for consumers, it's much more convenient. It can be very affordable. We've seen prices drop dramatically both on the device side and the service cost side. Often in emerging markets, you really see very, very low prices for service. And this helps make people's lives more productive, more secure. And so, okay, so what are people doing with these technologies, and what are the policy implications of these technologies? And two things that we think are going to be very important for the future, and we're already starting to see these technologies have an impact, but really around education and healthcare, two really fundamental issues in the world. And if we focus in on education, we really believe that the mobile technology, you think about it, there are teachers in schools right now that think, hey, we want kids to turn their phones off in the classroom. And we see this as an opportunity to provide something which is very personalized and connected and allows the students to have access to their teachers and their peers, and the parents to have access in a much, much broader fashion. And so we really think that we can improve and transform the educational experience of students. And the other thing is kids are engaged with these. So it really is a really good pathway for us to make sure that our kids that are learning today, they become tomorrow's very competitive workforce. And it does allow, because this is a device, once you start using it, it seems to us that it will promote more lifelong learning. It will certainly promote learning outside the classroom walls and outside the traditional school day. And so students can collaborate with each other, they can study, they can research, they can do all of these things, whether they're on the bus heading to school or home, or after school activities, or in the evening. And so we're really very committed at Qualcomm to help educators and policymakers achieve this potential. And we have an initiative called Wireless Reach. I talked a little bit about a Wireless Reach project, this one in Nepal, but we have a lot of projects in place, and a number of them are focused on using mobile technology to bring education to students in poor urban and rural school districts. We've done it in the United States, North Carolina to California. We're doing it internationally as well. And really, now we're really trying to focus in and really understand this well. And we're taking a kind of a deeper dive now in the United States to study what are the barriers to implementing mobile devices for all students. We have projects sort of across the range of areas where we might find obstacles. We're looking at ways to train teachers. We're looking at how do you build out the IT infrastructure. How do you make the curriculum actually customized for a mobile experience? It's very, very important to find ways to engage the students with it and make use of the fact that we can have very collaborative learning with a network device that the kids have. And so, we're very much hopeful that these projects are going to really help us understand better the many roles that mobile devices can play, and how we can improve the U.S. education system with it. And we really want to develop today's students into those future professionals that can be better prepared to address these challenges that we all are going to face in the coming decades. And if we can make sure that using the affordability of mobile technology, that all students, regardless of economic status, can have what we call digital equality, or have that 24/7 connectivity to the internet, to each other, I think that's going to make a tremendous difference. And the thing is, the kids want to do this. I mean, they have these devices, and today they're really not in most cases, are not allowed to use them for learning. And so you take something that a kid, it's sort of part of their everyday life, and you say, when you come to school, well, take that and set that aside. We're not going to allow you to use that. And it doesn't really make sense, because the kids themselves want to use their devices. And there was a survey, Project Tomorrow did this survey called Speak Up Survey, and they said that over 50% of students in grades 6 through 12 said that their vision for the ultimate school includes having access to their mobile devices for learning purposes. So the kids themselves are already engaged in that idea that mobile technology will change education. So we absolutely need to bring these devices into education. We need to move away from what we'll call industrial era type methods of instruction, and we really need to build that support infrastructure for devices that the kids, they already have. I mean, it's not this big cost implication, because many of these students have the device, and we want to be able to allow them to get a device, get access to the net, to allow them to write, to search for information, to submit their assignments. I mean, you know, you see this happening already somewhat on the fixed internet, but having the device with you at all times, that I think is going to make a tremendous difference. And it's not that we're going and saying that the government needs to mandate this technology or this particular solution. It really is a question of just changing the mindset about how we look at mobile devices in education. And so we've set up some projects. We have a project called Project Connect. It was created in a North Carolina school district. And what we did there was we took smartphones and we gave them out to students to see whether we could improve their skills, their math skills, by giving them these phones, giving them the connectivity. Now these are at-risk students. They typically had scored poorly in math. They didn't have internet in their homes, so they really weren't having access before. And this project was very successful. It's been successful. It continues to be successful. If you look at the stats, the classes that participated in this Project Connect had 30% improvement in their proficiency rate on the state end of course exams. And that's if you compare them to students that were taught by the same teacher but just didn't have access to the smartphone. So 2 classes, one has it, one doesn't. Same teacher, 30% improvement in the proficiency scores on the same subject, same teacher. You know, so it really is a good controlled study and shows. And one nice thing is that that project's getting some recognition. Yesterday there was an announcement by the FCC that they included Project Connect in one of their 20 pilot projects selected to receive E-rate funds. They've created this program called Learning on the Go, which really is about facilitating the use of mobile technology on and off campus. And so the initiative really, it subsidizes the off-campus use of wireless service, and it's, I think, a tremendous indicator of the FCC's desire to modernize that E-rate system. And I'm really happy to see the FCC have such a strong commitment to applying mobile broadband to improving the education system. And you know, it's that mobile platform, it's there today, and so we can use that to benefit our students, and certainly we all agree better educated students, a better educated workforce is going to make the United States much, much more competitive. Let's look at healthcare. I mean, in healthcare, we also believe that wireless solutions are going to make healthcare more accessible to people and certainly more affordable. And if you have a device and you have the right application, what it allows is it allows the user to be more at the center of the healthcare system, and it will connect patients with their doctors and with their loved ones for monitoring and for real-time response. And so, as I said earlier, your phone makes you feel connected today to your friends and your family and your colleagues. In 5 to 10 years, we won't really think about it anymore, that our phone will make us connected to our healthcare professionals. Not because they're always watching us, it's not Big Brother, but if something happens, you have sensors on the phone, on your body, body-worn sensors, other things in the environment that will allow you to be connected when something happens. And that, I think, it will take a little bit of time, but I firmly believe that's the direction that we're heading. And so what does it mean? I mean, it means that you're going to have wireless embedded into other devices. You'll have your phone in your pocket, it'll have sensors, but you'll also wear sensors, and we're working with a lot of companies on different kinds of sensors, sort of Band-Aids that you would put on your body or things that you would wear that would monitor various aspects of your health. And it is clear that by doing remote monitoring, we can reduce costs. We've already seen projects that prove that. We'll eliminate waste, we'll improve the delivery of care, and as I said, it will allow the healthcare system to be much more focused on the individual, on that patient. And there are studies out there already that show that something $197 billion can be saved from U.S. healthcare expenses over the next 25 years just by implementing remote monitoring for chronic diseases and making some policy adjustments to facilitate that. And so if you think about the kind of innovation that can happen in the healthcare industry and all of the money that is focused worldwide on healthcare, there's really a major, major opportunity for the U.S. to be competitive in this space as well. And those innovations that we're developing and partners are developing, companies in the United States are developing, these are going to be used in other countries as well, in other developed countries as well. But they're also really going to have a major impact in the emerging markets, because in the emerging markets, the healthcare systems aren't as accessible, the doctors aren't readily available, and physical distance between doctors and patients and the costs of purchasing the healthcare equipment are going to make it, or do make it, very challenging to provide adequate healthcare. And so as we innovate in the United States on remote patient monitoring and on mobile health, we can transform the way that health care is delivered globally. And so a lot of good work's going on already. A lot of policy work is being done for mobile health. We're happy to see what's going on there. But clearly, there's much, much more to be done, and we really do need to focus on the patient and how do we improve that experience, how do we improve health care for the patient. And if you look at health care reform, obviously, a big topic, it really wasn't just about health insurance, which a lot of people focused on that aspect of it, but it was also about how do we transform health care and health information technology. And the Affordable Care Act had dozens of references on how do we foster the use of health information technologies in the delivery and the assessment of health care. And that's very promising, because there are issues. I mean, we need to go focus on getting new reimbursement mechanisms. I mean, there isn't the ability to get paid for many of these mobile health applications, even though we can see that they will be much more cost effective and provide better results, in fact. But those mechanisms need to be put in place. We need clarity, regulatory clarity on the role of these converged devices. Today, if you have a wireless sensor connected to your cell phone, that cell phone is considered a medical device and has to go through the whole FDA process. And we really need to find many more innovative approaches to improve people's health. So we've been working on demonstrating the potential to the healthcare community and to policymakers. We have a really interesting project that we've done here in DC that addresses the issue of chronic disease, because chronic disease is really a huge opportunity. 1 out of 2 American adults has a chronic disease. 7 out of 10 people die in the United States with a chronic disease. So we funded a study with the George Washington University Medical Center to look at a mobile application called PillPhone. And what we wanted to do with it is see, can we improve adherence to taking the medication among chronically ill Medicaid patients with high blood pressure. And really, if you look at some of the problems with management of chronic disease, particularly for urban underserved patients, it's poor medication compliance is really a problem. You don't get the patient engagement that you need to manage their own health. You can find uncontrolled blood pressure, serious complications, and when you get those complications in a chronic disease, the cost of treatment go dramatically higher. So if you look at it, at what happens for a patient that has high blood pressure, they have many different kinds of medications. In this study, the patient took an average of three blood pressure medications and overall 8 medications. And what happened with this pill phone application is that it would remind them when they needed to take their pills. And so in the study, we saw, just by having that application, relatively simple application on the phone, a much higher level of sustained use, of acceptance of having this application on the phone, and it showed the trend that patients would go back and they'd refill their prescriptions. They were using their prescriptions, they would stay on the program, they'd go to the pharmacy, they would buy the next set of pills in their treatment. So that worked, and obviously a healthier population and lower costs of healthcare delivery, that's going to improve our competitiveness. Okay, so what's needed? What do we need from the government to encourage and drive innovation? There's 5 key policy areas: spectrum allocation, strong patent system, immigration reform, repatriation of foreign income, and a reformed tax system, and really connecting the unconnected. And look at spectrum. It's the lifeblood for mobile communications, and it's clear that we need to have close cooperation between government and industry to drive that, because this is the way that these advanced services will grow. And really, we're having a lot of challenge in finding additional spectrum, because of that data usage. And so there's a lot of things that we need to do in parallel, and we need to do them quickly to try and ease this crunch. Clearly, the FCC and the administration and the Congress are looking at how to free up more spectrum. We want to see this authority for voluntary incentive auctions, particularly of spectrum that's being occupied by television broadcasters. And we think that these voluntary incentive auctions are going to allow spectrum to be put in the hands of parties that will use it to the highest and best benefit. And there's also initiatives underway by NTIA and the FCC to reallocate underutilized government frequencies and free up those bands for commercial broadband. And so we're working on that problem. We're also spending our time trying to innovate, to find new technologies that can use spectrum that might be previously unusable or underutilized. So we're trying to find the technologies that can help improve this as well. Now, we'll improve technology, but technology is not the only thing. We need to get more spectrum made available, and that will help solve the crunch. And the issue is that there's just a tremendous amount of usage. I mean, we all know it, that there's just demand, whether it's smartphones or now tablet computers, all these connected devices. And we really, in the process, as an industry, have been embarking on what we'll call an Internet of everything, where the mobile device will sit in the center of all the devices around us that will be connected in one way or another. And so objects beyond just your cell phone, the screens, the microphones, the projectors, all these kinds of things will be connected. And cellular technologies at the core, but there are other wireless technologies that will be used as well and connect up the phones and sensors and other kinds of devices in the environment. And so we fundamentally believe that this machine-to-machine technology is going to impact a lot of industries. It will impact healthcare, as we've talked about, but transportation, retail, critical infrastructure tracking, I mean, all sorts of applications for this. And we know today that data traffic already consumes more capacity than voice traffic. And by 2014, we're expecting that in a single month, we'll use more data than was used in the whole year of 2008. So very, very strong demand. We need to do things differently. The way we're managing spectrum today isn't working. We have to be more nimble, have to be improving our partnerships between both public and private entities to make sure that we have commercially viable solutions, because spectrum really is an economic development tool for the 21st century. And this is because these centers of excellence, these places in the United States where we're going to get the benefits of these technologies I've talked about, we just need the spectrum. Okay, what else is important? I mean, the patent system, clearly a key driver of innovation. We have to allow companies to protect their inventions and get an appropriate return on their investment of time and money. And as a patent holder, we know that high-quality patents that can be protected will create opportunities and cause job growth. And I mean, Qualcomm is, really a story about that. And if we make the wrong policy choices, we will stifle innovation and we will stall job growth. And obviously, there's a lot of work now going on patent reform. We want to make sure that things that are done legislatively do not weaken the rights of patent owners, because if that happens, if we weaken intellectual property rights and we weaken remedies for infringements, then those small startups like Qualcomm, they'll never grow and get the venture capital that they need to, or whatever capital they need to bring their ideas to market. And the other thing is that if we weaken our system, then it weakens our ability as a country to press other countries to respect intellectual property and to clean up their acts. And that really will also have, I think, a disproportionately negative impact on the small and struggling companies that really can't afford to go into foreign courts and try and protect their inventions. So one of the things that we're very happy to see in the most recent reforms is the strengthening of the Patent and Trademark Office, and having this provision in the recent Senate America Invents Act to make sure that the Patent Office just can keep the fees that it brings in. This is going to help us clear up this huge backlog of pending applications. And there's also other things that we're very happy to see. We're happy to see the damages provisions removed. We want to make sure that there isn't some additional responsibilities that are going to be added to the PTO, given their already sort of overwhelming tasks they have ahead of them. And we want to make sure that certainty is created, that small companies know that they will be able to get through this process. We're happy to see safeguards in there to prevent abuse. Obviously, there's concerns by many people about abuse of the patent system. But now we're hopeful we'll see that the House is going to be able to take this forward and get this done in a way that eliminates many of the problematic things that have derailed the legislation in the past. So we're very happy to see that. And clearly, the patent system is going to continue to provide opportunities for the United States and for entrepreneurs and companies. The other thing, we need to keep innovators in the United States. I mean, obviously, we bring the best and the brightest of the world to our universities, but then we're sending them home. We're not allowing them to stay in the United States and create those opportunities here, and that just seems wrong to me. And not only do we send students back home after we've trained them, we send venture capital after them as well, so they're creating the jobs in other countries. And that, we'd at least like to see them stay here for a while, create an opportunity. Okay, maybe people will continue to go home, but it'd be great if we can get more people to stay in the United States, and changing the immigration system will be really important there. And then we also need to allow the U.S. companies to invest at home, and the tax system is set up in a way right now. I mean, Qualcomm has 75% of our employees in the United States, and 95% of our revenues are generated offshore. And we're exporting ideas offshore, but that money now stays there because it has a little sign on those dollar bills that say do not spend them in the United States because of the way the tax policy is set up. So we want to see repatriation happen. We want to see territorial tax system put in place. We recently announced we're putting $1 billion into a factory building displays in Taiwan. And the biggest part of the cost of the products that come out of that factory is the cost of building the factory itself. And amortizing that cost across the products. And when you have to pay 40% extra on top for taxes, if you would bring that money back to the United States to build the factory here, that directly goes into the cost of the product and makes that product non-competitive. So we can't do that. I mean, it just makes it fundamentally uncompetitive in the world. It's not about labor costs. These factories have huge sheets of glass. There are not people carrying these things around. It's really about building that factory out and the cost of capital to actually build the factory. And the tax rate just needs to change. And if we can allow companies to bring this money back, I mean, there's almost $1.5 trillion by U.S. companies overseas. We bring that back, that is a private sector stimulus that will be tremendously important. And so if we do this, I think we'll make tremendous benefits. And so just kind of to close, it's really American ingenuity, our entrepreneurial spirit really it serves us very well in addressing the kind of challenges and opportunities we see. I mean, if you look at the leading companies now in radio technology and semiconductors and software, I mean, they're U.S. companies. It's companies like ours, companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, HP. I mean, the list goes on. And we have an advantage. We can build on this advantage. We really need to focus in on the inventor and understand that intellectual property and innovation is an export and really has created a lot of very good high-paying jobs, and that there's a positive result, and the government has to see these intangible assets as assets. It's this mobile broadband that I've spent so much time talking about, just an example about how innovation can drive achievement and great jobs and exports. And in Qualcomm and in our industry, we've found ways to transform the world. We've created really a new wireless broadband industry, and I think it's because the company, we challenged the conventional thinking. We thought about how technology really can change people's lives, and how do we take risk, and how do we continue to drive technology forward. And so we want to see the government provide the incentives to spur innovation, spur new technology and product development. We have a continued commitment to fund basic research, have a strong patent system, invest in education, provide access to talent. And these are the things that the government needs to do to drive the private sector and to drive innovation and economic growth. So really have this opportunity to inspire entrepreneurs, to bring business and government, academia, foundations together to really speed the success of today's innovators. And this joint commitment by U.S. companies and governments, that's critical for the country. And together, we can leverage our leadership for U.S. competitiveness. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Sure. I'm happy to take a couple of questions if anybody has questions.